Hello, my darlings. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we are going to be talking about some books that I just wish that I could read again for the first time. So for most of these books, they've got excellent twists going through them, and it was just so fun to follow the plot and to just really be thrown around by the storyline. And I wish that I could forget what happened in all of them and read them all again for the first time. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into these. They will take you for a wild ride. So the first book that I want to talk about is The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. So this is an adult mystery novel set in Barcelona. We follow our main character, Danielle. We start this story with Danielle being taken to this secret library of books by his father. And his father says that he has to choose one book and one author to protect for his whole life. And he has to put all of his studies and all of his efforts into knowing the work of that author and protecting the work of that author. And so Danielle picks up a book, reads it, and it's the most beautiful thing he's ever read. And so he wants to read everything by this author, but he finds that somehow every work by this author is being destroyed by someone, something, he doesn't know. And so we just get wrapped into this beautiful mystery about this mystery author, and we get pulled into sort of the parallels between Danielle's life and this author's life, and it's just so mystical and magical. If you want just amazing atmospheric mystery, this is the book for you. There are so many things that happen in this book, and of course, because it's a mystery, there is sort of like a big reveal. And yeah, I wish I could reread this and discover that for the first time, because it was just so great, so mind-blowing, and I was just left speechless when I finished this book. It was so much more emotional and beautiful than I had anticipated. So there's a lot of beauty that sort of sleeps behind the curtains in this book. It's very fun to pull back those curtains. The next book that I want to chat about is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. So this is an adult fantasy book. This is actually the first book in a series called the Broken Earth trilogy. And it is an incredible trilogy. It is about a world that is constantly going through these magnificent natural disasters. So there are rifts in the Earth's crust, there's earthquakes, there's volcanoes and tsunamis, and just everything that could possibly happen happens in this story. So basically you just delve into this society where they don't really know a lot of their history, what's true, what's not. They don't know how to survive this thing. And there are these people in the society that can control the Earth in different ways. Think like earthbenders from Avatar, kind of. And you would think that they would be absolutely revered in their society for being able to save people and help people, but instead they are villainized and controlled by the government. So great premise for a fantasy book, just saying. But then on top of that, N.K. Jemisin's writing is absolutely incredible. A fantasy story that you wouldn't think is a mystery novel becomes just completely full to the brim with mystery. And every single second of reading this book, you're trying to guess the links between different things. You're trying to guess what happened, to guess what will happen. It's just wonderful. And there is kind of a big reveal at the end that makes everything very, very clear. And it just wraps everything all up together very, very well. And reading it over again will never be the same for anybody if you have made it to the end of this book, because it's just a wonderful way of framing the story that you in the beginning have no idea that's happening. So I would recommend this book to anybody who reads anything, honestly. But if you want something that's just gonna pull you along for a wonderful mystery and a wonderful twist, this is absolutely one to go for. All right, the next book that I want to chat about is a tried and tested mystery style novel, which is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. So basically, this is an Agatha Christie style mystery. So we are in a big manor house with a big property. There's only so many people that could have committed this murder, and we are there to try and solve it. But put a little Groundhog's Day twist on that, What the heck does that mean? It means that our character that we're following through with the story wakes up in a different person's body every day. So we relive the same day, the day of this murder, but in the perspective of every single different person in this house. So not only is the mystery who committed this murder, but the mystery is, why are we here? How is this Groundhog's Day thing happening? It's wonderful. There's 2 extra little like twists put on there, and I did not guess either mystery. There was no way that I had any idea, any clue what was going on with either situation, but it was still so fun. So if you're looking for kind of like a spooky Downton Abbey, Agatha Christie-esque mystery, but you want something that's a little bit more original and a little bit more unique, this is an absolutely great one to go for. The next book I want to chat about is a historical fiction novel. Who would have thought? And that is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. So this book is an adult historical fiction novel about 2 sisters who are living in France during the occupation of France by Germany in World War II. We follow along with these 2 sisters as they both have very, very different personalities and very different ways of pushing against the occupation and sort of trying to stand up for their country and their people. Basically, we get lots of flashbacks and flash forwards and connections between different parts of the story. It's just a beautiful story. I was just blown away. I cried so hard at the end. It's extremely emotional, and there's just like twist after twist after twist after twist, and it all just amounts to this beautiful, beautiful story. It's heartbreaking and heart-wrenching and uplifting all at the same time. It's really great. If you're a fan of historical fiction and you haven't read this, you need to get on it right now because it's monumental, just incredible writing. The next book I want to talk about is a romance. What? Kira reading romance? I know, we're getting all of the genres in this video and I'm very excited. And that is A Day in December by Josie Silver. So this is also an adult novel, and it is a romance novel. This is actually probably what I would consider to be new adults. It follows these 2 girls right as they're graduating from university in London, and it follows through their lives. Basically, one of them is sitting at a bus stop one day in December and sees this person on the bus, and she and him, their eyes meet, and just immediately she knows, like, ooh, this is the guy. But the bus drives away and they're lost. And so her and her friend jokingly talk about searching for bus boy the entirety of the next year, and then he is found. And things develop from there because it's quite a twist in the way that he is found. It's just one of those beautiful stories where you follow along people through their lives and you get the perfect representation of life in all of its imperfections, in all of its happiness, and all of its sorrow, and you follow along with this beautiful, beautiful romance along the way. It's just wonderful. The ending is like one of my favorite endings of any story any time ever. It kind of reminds me of Love Actually, very like Christmassy England vibes. It's a great story. It's very like heartwarming and feel good, and it's not super long, so it's a really easy read. If you're in a reading slump, this is a great one to get you out of it. All right, and lastly, the last book I want to chat about is The Starlight C by Erin Morgenstern. This is a perfect book if you want to get your brain working. It is an adult fantasy novel about a boy who is, well, a man who is in his graduate program, and he is studying literature. He goes to the library, finds a book that doesn't seem to have an author, doesn't seem to have any record in the library, and it's a book of short stories. He begins to read it, and one of the short stories describes to a T an exact moment in his life when he was a child that nobody was there for except for him. So he begins to search around to figure out who wrote this book, how could they have possibly known what happened in his life, and it just spirals into this beautiful story about these sort of like underground literary societies, and there's magic and fate and prophecies and twists and turns in time, and it is just wonderful. It is so atmospheric. If you're thinking, you know, cozy fireside with leather chairs and a nice study with the smell of old books and sipping cognac, and that is the best way that I can just describe the vibe in this. Oh yeah, and then like have that in like a Scotland castle, and like there you go. That's basically the vibe you get from this book. It's wonderful. And if we're talking about wanting to read it again for the first time, there are so many twists and turns in this book, and the way that Erin Morgenstern relays the information to you, she just presents it in such a beautiful way where you just feel like you're being pulled through. It's like you're in a boat but with no oars and no paddles, and you just float through this beautiful fantasy world, and there's nothing you can do. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. You don't really know how you got where you are in the story, but you are there, and it's just it's just beautiful. I will definitely be rereading this someday, but I know that it's not going to be the same as having discovered it the first time around. So if you're reading this for the first time, pay attention, because there's so many amazing links between different parts of the story, and it's 100% worth it. Well, my darlings, that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a like, subscribe down below, turn on the bell notification so you know when I post new videos, and comment below the #1 book that you think is one that you would just die to read again for the first time. Thanks so much for joining me today, you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye!